Your current life is the direct result of your past thinking. And if you don't like your current life, then you must admit that your thinking has been wrong, weak, and ineffective. Every broke person thinks like a broke person. Every successful person thinks like a successful person. And until you're willing to abandon the mental patterns that created your current reality, you'll keep getting the same results year after year. The harsh truth is that your problems aren't caused by bad luck, unfair circumstances, or other people's actions. Your problems are caused by untrained thinking. And only warrior-level mental discipline can solve them right now. As you sit there is a war happening inside your head. Most people don't even know they're fighting this war. They walk around defeated, wounded, carrying the scars of battles they never chose to win. But not you. Not today. Today you learn what it means to train your mind like a warrior. Let me tell you about Elena Rodriguez. 5 years ago, she was working the night shift at a textile factory in Detroit. Every morning she would drag herself home, exhausted, believing this was all life had to offer her. Her hands were rough from handling fabric, her back ached from standing for 12 hours, and her dreams seemed as distant as the stars. But something happened on a Tuesday morning that changed everything. Walking past a park on her way home, she saw an old man sitting at a chess table, playing alone. Something about the concentration on his face, the way his eyes studied that board like it held the secrets of the universe, stopped her in her tracks. She had never played chess in her life, but she asked if she could watch. The old man looked up and said words that would haunt her forever. "Young lady, this game is not about moving pieces on a board. This game is about training your mind to see what others cannot see, to think 3 steps ahead when everyone else is stuck on step 1. That conversation lasted 20 minutes, but it planted a seed that would grow into something extraordinary. Elena began studying chess with the same dedication others reserved for survival. She studied during her lunch breaks. She practiced moves in her head while her hands worked the machines. She filled notebook after notebook with strategies and patterns. People at work thought she had lost her mind. They said, "Elena, you're 35 years old, you work in a factory. What are you doing playing games?" But here's what they didn't understand. Elena wasn't just playing a game. She was training her mind like a warrior. She was developing the mental muscles that would transform everything about her life. Within 2 years, she had won her first local tournament. Within 3 years, she was competing at the state level. But the real victory wasn't on the chessboard. The real victory was what happened to Elena's mind. You see, when you train your mind like a warrior, when you force it to work harder, to think deeper, to solve problems it has never faced before, something magical happens. Your mind begins to transfer that strength to every area of your life. Elena started seeing opportunities at work that others missed. She began solving problems that had stumped supervisors for years. She started speaking up in meetings where she had been silent for a decade. Today, Elena Rodriguez is a chess grandmaster, but more importantly, she owns 3 businesses and employs 47 people. The woman who once believed she was trapped in a factory now teaches other people how to escape their own mental prisons. But it all started with one decision. The decision to train her mind like a warrior, you see. Most people treat their minds like tourists treat a rental car. They use it carelessly. They don't maintain it. They don't push it to see what it's really capable of. And they return it in worse condition than they found it. But a warrior treats his mind like a master craftsman treats his finest tool. Every day he sharpens it, strengthens it, and prepares it for the battles ahead. The difference between a victim and a warrior is not what happens to them. Life hits everyone. Disappointment comes to every door. Failure visits every address. The difference is in how they train their minds to respond to what happens to them. A victim's mind is like an untrained soldier thrown into battle. When trouble comes, when challenges arise, when obstacles appear, the untrained mind panics. It runs, it hides, it makes excuses, it blames others. It says things like, I can't do this. This is too hard. I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes. But a warrior's mind is different. A warrior's mind has been through basic training. It has been conditioned to stay calm under pressure, to think clearly when chaos surrounds it, to find solutions when others see only problems. When trouble comes to a warrior's door, his mind doesn't panic. Instead, it says, I've trained for this moment. I am prepared. I will find a way. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about pretending problems don't exist. This is about building the mental strength to face whatever life throws at you and come out victorious on the other side. Your mind right now is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. It is either the engine that drives you toward your destiny or the anchor that keeps you trapped in mediocrity. The choice is yours, but you must choose. You cannot remain neutral in the war for your own mind. Every thought you think is either building you up or tearing you down. Every internal conversation you have is either preparing you for victory or programming you for defeat. Every time you face a challenge, your mind is either being strengthened like a muscle or weakened like an unused limb. The question is not whether you have problems. Everyone has problems. The question is whether your mind is trained to solve them. The question is not whether you face obstacles. Everyone faces obstacles. The question is whether your mind is prepared to overcome them. So then, why is that the problem? The question is whether your mind is prepared. This is your moment. This is your opportunity to stop being a victim of your own thinking and start becoming the warrior you were born to be. The battle for your future is fought and won in the battlefield of your mind. Are you ready to win that battle? But how do you build this mental strength? How do you transform an ordinary mind into a warrior's mind? Let me tell you about James Patterson. And no, not the famous writer, but a man whose story will shake you to your core. 3 years ago, James was sleeping under a bridge in Chicago. He had lost everything. His business had failed, his wife had left him, his children wouldn't speak to him, and he had spent every dollar he had trying to save what couldn't be saved. But lying on that cold concrete, with nothing but a torn blanket and a backpack containing his entire life, James made a decision that would change everything. He decided to treat his mind like his most valuable possession, because suddenly it was his only possession. He had no money, no connections, no resources, but he had something that no one could take away from him: his ability to think, to learn, to grow, to become more than he was. James started visiting the public library every day when it opened, not to escape the cold, though that was a benefit, but to feed his mind. He began with books on business, then moved to psychology, then to success stories of people who had overcome impossible odds. But here's what made James different from other people who read success books. He didn't just read them, he applied them. He treated every concept like a piece of steel that needed to be forged in the fire of real life experience, while other homeless people spent their days asking for handouts. James spent his days learning skills. He taught himself web design using the library computers. He studied online marketing. He learned about social media, about digital sales, about reaching customers he had never met. People thought he was crazy, spending 8 hours a day in the library when he should have been looking for a job. But James understood something they didn't understand. He was building the foundation for a life that didn't exist yet, but would soon. He was constructing the mental architecture that would support the success he was about to create within 6 months. James had created his first website within 8 months. He had landed his first client within a year. He was making more money than he had ever made in his life. Today, James Patterson runs a digital marketing agency that generates over $2 million in revenue annually. He owns his home. He is reconciled with his children. And he employs 12 people who might otherwise be struggling like he once was. But the most remarkable thing about James is not his business success. The most remarkable thing is how he thinks. When you talk to James today, you realize you are talking to a man whose mind has been forged in fire. Every challenge he faces, he approaches like a problem to be solved, not a crisis to survive. Every obstacle that appears in his path he sees as an opportunity to become stronger, not a reason to give up. And this is what happens when you build the architecture of mental strength. Your mind becomes like a well-engineered building that can withstand any storm. Most people's minds are like houses of cards, beautiful to look at but ready to collapse at the first sign of pressure. But a warrior's mind is different. It is built to last, built to endure, built to support the weight of great dreams and enormous challenges. The architecture of mental strength has 3 levels, and you must master all 3 if you want to think like a warrior. The first level is your foundation thoughts, the basic beliefs about yourself and your capabilities that everything else is built upon. If this foundation is weak, everything you try to build on top of it will eventually crumble. The second level is your structural thoughts, the daily thinking patterns that either reinforce your strength or create cracks in your mental framework. These are the thoughts you think about your current situation, your problems, your opportunities, and your future. The third level is your finishing thoughts, the final layer of mental conditioning that determines how you present yourself to the world and how you respond when life tests your strength. James mastered all 3 levels. And that's why he was able to build something magnificent from nothing. Your current circumstances are not your raw materials. Your mind is your raw material. Your thoughts are your construction tools. Your determination is your blueprint. What will you build? Now that you understand the architecture, you need to learn the warrior's code. This is where most people fail. They understand the theory, they know what they should do, but they lack the discipline to do it consistently. They want the results of a warrior without the training of a warrior. Let me tell you about Lisa Thompson. 2 years ago, Lisa was fighting a battle that millions of people fight every day, but few talk about openly. She was drowning in depression so deep that getting out of bed felt like climbing Mount Everest. The voice in her head told her every morning that she was worthless, that nothing would ever change, that she should just give up. Most people in Lisa's situation go to therapy, take medication, or hope that time will heal their wounds. Lisa did all of those things, but she also did something else. She decided to treat her mind like a samurai treats his sword. She understood that a samurai doesn't just own a sword, he maintains it, sharpens it, polishes it, and practices with it every single day. Lisa created what she called her mental maintenance routine. Every morning at 5:30, before the world woke up and before her depression could fully take hold, Lisa would spend 1 hour training her mind. She would start with 10 minutes of controlled breathing, forcing her mind to focus on something other than her problems. Then she would spend 20 minutes writing down 3 things she was grateful for and why she was grateful for them, not just listing them, but actually feeling the gratitude. But here's where Lisa's approach became truly warrior-like. She would then spend 30 minutes doing what she called mental combat training. She would take every negative thought that had beaten her down the day before, and she would fight it with facts. When her mind said, "You're worthless," she would write down 5 things she had accomplished, no matter how small. When her mind said, "Nothing ever changes," she would write down 3 things that had improved in her life over the past month. People thought Lisa was being too hard on herself, too disciplined, too intense. But Lisa understood something they didn't understand. Depression is a bully, and bullies don't respond to weakness or negotiation. They only respond to strength. They only back down when they realize they're dealing with someone who refuses to be beaten within 3 months. Lisa noticed something remarkable. The voice in her head was getting quieter. Within 6 months, she was having more good days than bad days. Within a year, Lisa had not only overcome her depression, but she had become one of the strongest people anyone in her circle had ever met. Today, Lisa runs support groups for people fighting similar battles. But she doesn't teach them to manage their depression, she teaches them to defeat it. She shows them how to turn their minds into weapons that fight for them instead of against them. This is the warrior's code. You must train your mind with the same discipline that a soldier trains his body. You must practice mental exercises with the same consistency that an athlete practices physical exercises. You must sharpen your thoughts with the same dedication that a craftsman sharpens his tools. Every morning when you wake up, your mind is either getting stronger or getting weaker. Every thought you entertain is either building your mental muscle or allowing it to atrophy. Every challenge you face is either an opportunity to prove your mental toughness or a chance to give in to mental weakness. The ancient samurai understood that the battle is won or lost in the preparation, not in the moment of conflict. They spent years training their minds to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly when chaos surrounded them, to act with precision when others would panic. Your mind needs the same kind of training. Not someday, not when you feel ready, not when your circumstances improve, right now. Today, this moment. The Warrior's Code demands nothing less than total commitment to mental excellence. But here's what no one tells you about training your mind like a warrior. The greatest enemy you will face is not outside of you. It's inside of you. It's the voice that has been whispering lies to you for so long that you've started believing their truths. It's the internal dialogue that keeps you small, keeps you safe, keeps you exactly where you are. Let me tell you about Robert Williams. 5 years ago, Robert was sitting in a prison cell, convicted of armed robbery, serving a 15-year sentence. But Robert's real prison wasn't made of concrete and steel bars. Robert's real prison was built from the words that had been spoken over him since he was a child. You'll never amount to anything. You're just like your father. You're destined for failure. Those words had become the soundtrack of Robert's life. Every time he tried to do something positive, that voice would remind him of who he really was. Every time an opportunity appeared, that voice would convince him he wasn't worthy of it. That voice had led him from one bad decision to another until he found himself wearing an orange jumpsuit, counting down the years. But something happened in that cell that changed everything. Robert realized that the voice in his head wasn't his voice. It was a collection of other people's opinions, fears, and limitations that he had accepted as his own truth. He understood that he had been carrying other people's garbage in his mind for so long that he had forgotten what his own thoughts actually sounded like. Robert made a decision that would transform not just his remaining years in prison, but the rest of his life. He decided to evict every voice from his mind that wasn't building him up, wasn't pushing him forward, wasn't helping him become the man he was capable of being. He started by writing down every negative belief he had about himself. The list was 3 pages long. Then, next to each negative belief, he wrote what he called the warrior's response. When the voice said, "You're a failure," Robert's warrior response was, "I am learning and growing every day." When the voice said, "You'll never change," his warrior response was, "I am becoming the person I was meant to be." But Robert didn't just write these responses. He declared them out loud, with conviction, with passion, with the authority of a man who had decided to take control of his own mind. Every morning and every night, Robert would speak life over himself with the same intensity that others had spoken death over him. The other inmates thought Robert had lost his mind, talking to himself, reading books constantly, studying for his GED while serving time. But Robert understood something they didn't understand. He was serving time in a physical prison, but he was breaking out of the mental prison that had been built around him since childhood. Robert earned his GED in prison, then his bachelor's degree through correspondence courses, then his master's degree in psychology when he was released after serving 8 years. Robert didn't just return to society, he returned as a completely different man. Today, Dr. Robert Williams runs a program that helps former inmates transition back into society successfully. But the most powerful thing about Robert is not what he achieved. The most powerful thing is how he speaks to himself. When challenges arise, when setbacks occur, when people doubt his ability to maintain his transformation, Robert's internal dialogue doesn't waver. It says, I have overcome worse than this. I am equipped for this challenge. I will find a way to win. This is what it means to conquer your inner enemy. You must identify every voice in your head that is not working for your success, and you must silence it with the authority of someone who knows their true worth. Now I want to tell you a story that will shake everything you believe about limitations, about age, about what's possible when a human mind refuses to accept defeat. This is the story of Anna Kowalski. And when I tell you what this woman accomplished, you will never again accept excuses about why you can't achieve your dreams. Anna was 65 years old when her husband of 43 years passed away from cancer. She had spent her entire adult life taking care of others. First her children, then her grandchildren, then her sick husband through 2 years of chemotherapy and hospital visits. She had never worked outside the home, had never made her own financial decisions, had never even balanced a checkbook. Standing at his graveside, Anna felt something she had never experienced before. She felt completely alone and completely unprepared for the life she now had to live. The Social Security check barely covered her basic expenses. Her children lived in different states and had their own families to worry about. At 65, Anna faced a choice that confronts everyone at some point. Would she accept that her best years were behind her? Or would she train her mind like a warrior and fight for a future that didn't yet exist? But here's where Anna's story becomes extraordinary. Remember, Anna had never graduated from high school. She had dropped out at 16 to get married and start a family. She could barely read beyond a 3rd grade level. She had never used a computer, never sent an email, never even owned a cell phone. By every measure society uses to determine potential, Anna had none. But Anna understood something that most people never understand. Your age is not your enemy. Your education level is not your enemy. Your circumstances are not your enemy. Your enemy is the voice in your head that says, it's too late, you're too old, you don't have what it takes. Anna made a decision that shocked everyone who knew her. She decided to learn how to read properly. Not just to get by, not just to handle her basic affairs, but to really read, to understand, to absorb knowledge like someone half her age. She enrolled in adult literacy classes at the local community college. The first day was humiliating. She sat in a classroom with people 30 years younger than her, struggling to pronounce words that children learned in elementary school. The instructor spoke to her slowly, as if she were mentally impaired. Other students whispered and stared. Anna went home that night and cried for 2 hours. But the next morning, something extraordinary happened. Anna looked in the mirror and said words that would change everything. Anna Kowalski, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not too old to learn. You are not too stupid to succeed. You are training your mind like a warrior. And warriors don't quit because the battle is hard. Every day for 6 months, Anna sat in that classroom. Every night she practiced reading for 3 hours. She read children's books, then young adult novels, then newspapers, then magazines. Her mind, which had been dormant for decades, began to wake up. She started asking questions that had never occurred to her before. She began having thoughts that surprised even her within a year. Anna was reading at a college level, but she didn't stop there. She discovered something that ignited a passion she never knew existed. She loved stories. Not just reading them, but thinking about them, analyzing them, understanding what made them powerful. Anna decided to try something that everyone told her was impossible. She decided to write a story of her own for the next 2 years. Anna wrote every morning from 5 to 8 a.m. She wrote about women like herself, women who had lived quiet lives but had extraordinary strength hidden inside them. She wrote about the thoughts that women think but never speak out loud. She wrote about the dreams that get buried under decades of responsibility and sacrifice. Anna's first book was rejected by 17 publishers. The 18th publisher said yes. The Quiet Strength became a bestseller among women over 50. But Anna didn't stop there. She wrote a second book, then a third. Today, at 72 years old, Anna Kowalski has published 6 books, speaks at conferences across the country, and earns more money than she ever dreamed possible. But here's what makes Anna's story truly remarkable. It's not what she achieved, it's what she became. When you meet Anna today, you are meeting a woman whose mind has been transformed from a victim's mind to a warrior's mind. When challenges arise, Anna doesn't see problems. She sees material for her next book. When people tell her she can't do something because of her age, Anna smiles and says, "Watch me prove you wrong." Anna's grandchildren, who once worried about how she would survive without their grandfather, now come to her for advice about their own dreams and challenges. Her mind has become a source of strength not just for herself, but for everyone around her. This is what happens when you train your mind like a warrior. You don't just change your own life. You change the lives of everyone connected to you. Your mental strength becomes a legacy that outlasts your physical presence on this earth. But Anna's story reveals something even more profound about the warrior mindset. It's never too late to begin. Your mind doesn't have an expiration date. Your capacity to grow, to learn, to become more than you are doesn't decrease with age unless you allow it to decrease right now as I speak these words. Your mind is either accepting limitations or rejecting them. It's either making excuses or making plans. It's either preparing for defeat or training for victory. The choice is yours. But you must choose. Every person who has ever accomplished anything significant started exactly where you are right now, with a decision to train their mind like a warrior. Elena started in a factory. James started under a bridge. Lisa started in depression. Robert started in a prison cell. Anna started at 65 with a 3rd grade reading level. Your starting point is not your limitation. Your current circumstances are not your ceiling. Your past failures are not your future destiny. Your age is not your enemy. Your lack of education is not your disqualification. Your mind is your most powerful weapon, and it's time you learned how to use it. The world is waiting for what you have to offer. But first, you must train your mind to believe that you have something to offer. The future is waiting for your contribution, but first, you must develop the mental strength to make that contribution. Your time is now. Your opportunity is here. Your moment has arrived. Stop making excuses. Stop accepting limitations. Stop believing the lies that have kept you small. Train your mind like a warrior and watch as your entire life transforms before your eyes. The battle for your future begins in your mind. Are you ready to win that battle? Then let's begin today.